You drafted him when you were in Washington. You had to make a decision, I think, between Ovechkin and Malkin, correct?
Basically, yeah. Yeah.
Um, so what was it like to watch him break Wayne's record, knowing full well that you were there when he was on the stage at the draft and you shook his hand?
I, it's one of the neatest things I've experienced in hockey without being part of it. Like watching, and I thought it was one of the neatest things I've ever seen. Those last two games, the run up was good, but those last two games, I don't recall ever seeing games like that where there's a game going on, but you're not watching it. You're looking for him all the time. And I swear, I thought like it was in the game in Washington when he tied it with 2 goals. I thought you could hear the crowd elevate every time he came on the ice. I mean, I turned my TV up, and am I imagining this? Or because every time he got on the ice, certainly any time he got near the puck or had the puck, the noise level elevated. But and it actually inspired me to jot down what are the 5 neatest things you've seen in your lifetime in hockey.
Ovi lived with you for a bit when he first came over, right?
Yep. Yep. He we drafted him, and then we missed a year of hockey, right? So he was playing in the KHL. I went over to see him over there. That was a really neat experience because his parents immediately said, "You've got to come to our country house," and that's it. You're coming. So I said, okay. And so I got in the car with them and went out to their country house, but I don't know where we were. And I got there and they made me take my suit off. They gave me a sweatsuit to put on and spent the rest of the day with them. And left late that night. But even though the English wasn't great, you can still communicate. It was a really, really neat experience. I really admired them. They had 4 or 5 people there probably that were down on their luck, I guess, and they were looking after them and feeding them, and that resonated. And again, it was a really neat thing in my life to experience that. Again, I go back to '72 and the robotic Russians, and they don't smile, they don't communicate, they don't do anything. And then I'm with this incredible family, and there couldn't have been more love and caring and respect for people in their house. And so, yeah, that was neat. Anyway, so we missed a year of hockey. It's the middle of summer. Now we're having our dev camp, and the work stoppage ends. And we had 3 more days left, and I can't remember how, but he had an out in his contract to come over, and so we got on it to get him to come over for the next season, and so we had to have a conference call with his agents and with the parents and with everybody else that was interpreters, and went back and forth, and you could tell the parents didn't want him to leave because he was with a different KHL team that he grew up with. He's already in training camp, getting ready for the season, and they didn't want him to leave. And you could tell that they were having a good debate, and then you could tell Ovi basically said in Russian, "I'm going. I've made a decision. I'm going." And at that moment, the interpreter said, "Alex is coming." And then at that moment, I said to the parents, "I want you to relax. We're going to look after your son. I promise you, I'm a father. I've got 3 kids. I'm going to look after your son." And so we get it all done. And then late in August, I get a call from Alex and, how you doing? And where are you? And what's going on? And he was at a hotel in DC. And I said, what are you doing there? I didn't even know he was coming. And I just said, Alex, you're 19, you're in DC. Like every major American city, there's an area you got to be careful. And I said, I'm coming down to pick you up, and I'm bringing you out to my house, and you're staying with us until training camp. And then that'll be it. So that's what we did. And he loved, the way Alex always trains is, he swims, he plays basketball, he plays all kinds of different sports, and can't think of the other one he's really good at. But
tennis?
Anyway, yes, yeah. And so that's what he did. He'd go work out with our players that were in town, but he also did that. He played basketball in our driveway and so on. And he loved playing with the kids. He was the goalie for the kids, put all the gear on, get in the net. Anyway, so obviously there's a tremendous connection there with him. And again, doing what he did, you're watching history, and it's a guy and it's one of the neatest things I've ever experienced in my life, and it was really, really fun to watch.
Curious, have you heard from him since?
Yeah, I texted him after he broke the record, and he sent me back one of his amazing texts, and I think it was something like, my man, I love you, I love your family, and just on and on and on. So anyway, I was really, really impressed with how mature he was, and how much he had grown at the podium, in the conversation after the Washington game. He was really, really impressive, and you could tell he was a dad, he was a husband, and then on the ice on Long Island, he was really, really good. So he's just had a remarkable career. That unbelievable strength and power, that unbelievable shot that goalies don't know where it's going, but he does, and it just overwhelms them. He was really intimidating with that shot, really intimidating with the physical play.
Did you ever consider asking him to pull back physically? Because there was a time where we thought, you can't keep up that. He was able to, but there were a lot of us were on the fence.
That's part of it, but his endurance is part of the legacy, isn't it?
Yeah, the durability and the longevity, my goodness. There some nights there were, it was a night when I remember the first time he got 13 shots on goal in a game. Holy cow. The next night he'd have 13 hits. It was crazy. No, never asked him to pull back because, we want that every night from every player, and so when you've got it, you don't tell him to pull back. So never ever did that, and figured he'll learn how to do it. And he's obviously done it really, really well for how many years is this? 20 years?